Kathleen, this is a busy time for you and your organization. But we have learned, with alarm, that, quite a large number of Ghanaians don't really get it. They don't quite understand the structures and systems of our local government, and they don't, more importantly, they don't trust that the local government system is able to serve its function and solve the problems in their local areas. Why is that?
Well, I think that this good morning, by the way, but this problem with low interest in local government has been there from the beginning of the republic and has diminished over time, because I think that there's so much attention on the political structures at the national level, and I have my personal reasons for why the local government system, there's some bits and pieces that need to work that are not working properly.
You want to share your reasons?
Well, personally, right, I think that one of the ways we could solve this problem is to elect the head of the local government. I think it's a gap. People will hold accountable the people they elect, right? And to the extent that the head of the local government is appointed, even though the majority of the members, 70% of the members of the assembly are elected, people feel like if they elect you, they can hold you more accountable. And you can tell by the kind of pressure they put on the members of parliament, who, even though are not development agents and are not responsible for development in the local area, in the district, they have the citizens feel that they should be more accountable to them. So that's a gap. But that notwithstanding, to the extent that the entire assembly, the decision-making body, majority of the members of the decision-making body are elected, just as we are going to do on the 19th, I think it's important that people pay more attention to the activities of the local assembly. Assembly is responsible for a whole range of things. The local assembly is almost a replication of the political and administrative system at the national level. So it is important that people really engage. I always say that in the practice of democracy as we have chosen, it is at the local level, at the district level, that you feel the democracy in action. Because when you elect your MP, their office is in Accra, the president's office is in Accra, but your assembly member is in your community. They're required to be in your community, and you can hold them to account in that way. It is a challenge, the fact that the interest in the local elections has been low. I mean, it's about 30%, in terms of turnout for the elections, compared to around 65, 74, the general elections. And we really must put a lot more energy into ensuring that, people engage the assemblies more. If you go into a community, sanitation assemblies, licensing assemblies, all kinds of bylaws that ensure cohesion, ensure that the people in the community live together in peace, understand the roles of each segment of the community. All these come down to local government. We must hold local government to account. You understand? Your assembly person, once elected, has to come back to account to you. As citizens, we must be able to organize ourselves and ask the assembly, what have you done? You are supposed to end, your share of the national cake goes to your assembly, not your MP. So that is where you're supposed to go and ask questions. What have you used, the money for, all the funds that are sent for operations, for keeping our communities running smoothly? What has it been used for? That is the responsibility of the assembly. Assembly needs to provide those answers for people. So there's a big role for assemblies to play, and we work and need to work very, very aggressively, continuously, to ensure that people understand this and that the assemblies begin to actually deliver for people. There's a way in which I feel that the assemblies don't get the sort of pressure that the MPs get. And so maybe they are getting away with not doing what they are supposed to do. And we don't hear so much about assemblies being negligent of this or that, or not providing the services that they need to provide. But we always hear when an MP doesn't show up, doesn't come here, doesn't do this, doesn't do that. So, but I suspect that if we start to elect the head of the local government, the MC, the MMDCs, that situation will shift to an extent, because people will now turn to this other authority who they have elected, whose existence they have a stake in, who will look at these people and say, these are my stakeholders, my direct stakeholders. These are the people I'm reporting to because they have elected me. The dynamic will change when that happens. So hopefully at some point as a country, we're able to get back to that discussion, even as part of efforts to do constitutional review and all of that, to ensure that we really get this going. Because if we get the local assembly system working, functioning properly, if we hold the assemblies accountable as we should, I think that the pressure in the system will go down as far as governance is concerned.
Okay, so let's continue with the functions, and let's see if we can get people interested in the local government system, because this morning we're joined by Professor Nicholas Awoche, who's director at the Institute of Local Government Studies, and Dr. Eric Oduro, who is a local governance expert, also joining us. Let me start off with you, Professor Nicholas Awoche, and find out. I mean, Kathleen has been talking about the assembly. She's been talking about their importance. Tell us what role, the significance of the district assembly in our development.
Thanks very much, and good morning, Josephine, and the rest in the studio. Yes, the local government is where decisions on issues that affect people in their local areas are made. They are the places where representatives of the people at the local level meet, deliberate on their challenges, make bylaws, devote money to solve local problems. And I agree with Josephine, you can't have local problems solved at the center. That defeats the basis of decentralization. And decentralization is a key, if an entrenched clause in our constitution, which makes a very important issue for our local development. So it is important that we look at local government as an important component of our democracy. In fact, that is the bedrock of democracy. If we want to sustain democracy, and if we want to improve on our democracy, the emphasis should be on local democracy. Unfortunately, we have a lot of laws in our own constitution that does not help in promoting local governance. And that's why there's a call for reforms. So, at the assembly level, there is responsibility that is given to the assembly members to devote resources that have been transferred from the center to the local to provide local services. They also collect revenue from people to deliver services. And it is the area where basic services, water, education, land use, people complain a lot. Roads are not fixed, street lights are not fixed. People build in the middle of road. If these are the issues that concern people, then the area or the local government is where those solutions are provided on these issues.
Okay.
I listened earlier to some of the discussions and then I think the interview that you have done with people when they complain that they don't see the relevance of their local government because they don't, and someone even in your studio said that why should he go and vote? And I asked, why would people wake up 5 a.m., 4 a.m. to go and queue and vote at the central level, but they're not interested in queuing for the places where local problems are solved.
Tell me, why is that a case?
First, I think people do not understand the basis of democracy and local governance. If they are not interested in the local governance issues, so what they are saying is that their local problems can be solved through central means. And as a human being, you have responsibility to be part of your own process that brings you development. You are not an object to be planned for, to be developed by someone. You have the right to participate in your own process of development. So if someone is questioning, why should I get involved in local? Then the person doesn't understand the basis of even democracy and accountability. Second, as a nation, we are looking at improving on our democratic principles. When you elect your assembly member, that is where they learn the trade. And in fact, people who have been good leaders have also been at assembly level or been once a practitioner of local politics. You look at it, cities, the mayors of big cities in Latin America have turned out to be the presidents in UK, in London. In fact, many of the successful leaders. So it's local government is where people are given opportunity to lead, because this is where the residents know one another very well. This is where accountability, because people are close to each other. They know who is corrupt. They know who can do the job. They know who mobilize the people. So once you learn the trade at the local level, it then helps you to build your competencies. And then you said, I want to become a national politician, become a member of parliament. Okay. So that is the foundation, and it grows. Unfortunately, because we do not understand, and I'm happy Josephine is there, I think we need to improve on our...
it's actually Kathleen. Prof, this is Kathleen Addy. Josephine is no longer the chairperson.
Yes. Yeah. So I think this is where we need to improve on our civic education, so that people will understand that the democracy that we have all agreed, it can only improve and get better when we improve on our local level elections.
Okay.
And assembly members, they represent you at the district level. They make the laws, they provide oversight, and that is an important thing, oversight responsibility of the staff who work at assembly level, who provide water, who provide basic infrastructure, education. So if we do not go and elect people, and we do not play active role in local level elections, what we are saying is that we do not care. And yet these are the same people who will come on radio and complain every day about local government not doing something.
Okay.
But
Let me just bring in...
don't want to be part, how do you expect local government to grow?
Okay. Prof, let me just bring in, Dr. Oduro at this point. And Dr. Oduro, why should I care about a system that does nothing to me? Anything I need, I appeal to central government. So why should I care about a local government, a district assembly, whose benefit whose relevance I don't see?
Thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners. Good morning, Professor Addy. I think you should care, because the local government system is the lowest level of government, closer to you. And under our constitution, every citizen has the right to participate in their governance, because the seat of central government is far away from all of us, and local government, which is the district assembly, is the closest to you. That is why you should be interested in their activities. So there is a constitutional mandate on you, or responsibility on you in that regard. Secondly, it is an issue of development. the local governments are the ones responsible for bringing local level development to you. They are the ones who are expected to identify your needs in their development plans and then budget for it adequately, mobilize resources, and get money from central government to do it for you. But I think that the challenge we have in this country is that we overly concentrate on the local government, that's the district assembly. However, the lowest unit of the local government system is not the district assembly. We have unit committees. The unit committees are the closest to the citizens. So I would imagine that every citizen will know their unit committee members. They have a chat with their unit committee members, give them their development needs, and the unit committee members will work with their district assembly, send it to the assembly so that it will be executed. I think there is a missing link there. We have not adequately conscientized, sensitized, and educate Ghanaians on the important role they have to play in local governance, because that is the beginning of even exposing or coming up with your leadership qualities. I can imagine that as a country, it should get to a point where if you have never become an assembly member before, you have never become a unit committee member before, we should not allow you to even become an MP, let alone rising to become president, because it's where local leaders are treated. So I think that it should be important for every Ghanaian to take an interest in the activities of the local government. Okay. And when I say local government, it is not only the district assembly, including the unit committee. When the upcoming elections, people must look for their unit committee members, and they should also look for their assembly members, because the unit committee members are even the people closest to you. And because of this gap, you get people always holding their MPs, people running from their localities to Accra to come and lobby and change for projects. When there are elected unit committee members, elected assembly members, and elected MPs whose role is to ensure that they lobby and get these things done for you, it is the education bit that is missing. And if you are able to educate people well, I'm very positive that we will be able to mobilize them. Because you see, grassroots mobilization is important in any participatory democracy. If you don't mobilize the people well, you don't get the numbers. And in our democracy, numbers count. So NCCE and all other institutions, including the media, would have to join forces with the lead national institutions so that we sensitize people. Citizens must know that it is their constitutional responsibility to participate in local government elections, to participate in their development.
Okay, but Dr. Oduro, how do you talk about a system? So you say, oh, this is the local government system, this is where, all the development should begin from. How do you talk about a system where even the basic need of a feeder road in many, and if you could kindly reduce the volume on your radio set, where even the basic need of a feeder road in some district assemblies cannot be provided unless central government steps in? So for these people, who should they look up to? Is it not the central government instead of a district assembly that looks so detached from them?
It is an issue of leadership. And I think that when you look at our decentralized system, feeder road is the function of a district assembly. And you have a district chief executive who is up to the task. This should not be an issue. If you have an assembly member who would push the assembly and get the assembly the needful, it should not be an issue. My advice to citizens is that if you have elected an assembly member, if you have voted for a chief executive or approved a chief executive who is not delivering, you need feeder roads, they are not doing it. Throw them out. The law allows people to recall the assembly members when the assembly members are not working. I think it should get to a point where we should give people the role, mandate to lead us only when they have performed. So we should stop the complaining and then take people on. Right. Because assembly members are supposed to work. Chief executive and the district are supposed to work. That is why they mobilize revenue. They will say that there is no money, there is no common fund. The common fund is only 5% of national revenue and only about 40% of the budget of the assembly. The rest the assembly would have to mobilize. They collect taxes, they collect market tolls, they collect business operating permits. all those resources, what do they use them for? So I think that leaders in the form of assembly members and unit committees would have to set up so that citizens can have confidence in their system.
Right. Well, we're still talking to Kathleen Addy, Professor Nicholas Awoche, and Dr. Eric Oduro. We're talking about local government elections. They're coming up in a week, and of course, we want to make sure that this time around, at least the Ministry of Information's target of 50% turnout can be met, because the more representative these choices are, the more we can hold these officers to account and expect them to do what we need them to do at the local level. Now, Winston, in the break, Kathleen asked me if I knew my assemblyman. I didn't. So I thought, okay, let me see if I can find out who he is before we continue the conversation.
Okay.
I couldn't. So I went to the website of my municipal assembly, and there's no way of knowing who my assemblyman is. I'm concerned that even after we've identified the problem, calling people to action to solve it might be difficult, because they won't even know where to start.
Exactly. So let's get back to the conversation with Professor Nicholas Awoche, who's Director of the Institute of Local Government Studies, and Dr. Eric Oduro, local governance expert. So let's look at the solutions now. First of all, Professor Awoche, how do we ensure that citizens get interested in their local government and, by extension, the district level elections?
Thanks so much, Wilson. I think we need to have some reforms. I agree that we have some challenges, and one of the resources. If you look at assemblies, there are a lot of responsibilities that are given to the assemblies to perform, but the resources don't follow these responsibilities, and so many assemblies are found wanting, not able to deliver those responsibilities, and that is giving bad names to assemblies and the resentment to the citizens. And so, first, there must be increment in the transfers to local government. So, 5%. It's not good enough. If you look at Kenya is transferring between 25 to 30%. In fact, last year they were even agitating for higher transfers. Uganda is transferring between 35 to 38% to local government. So with these resources, they can deliver. But in our case, the IGF, if you talk about the revenue that they mobilize, the whole of the 261 assemblies we have in this country can only mobilize 1% of the national revenue. That is not good enough. So because resources are not there, they are not able to deliver. So let us reform first, provide more resources to the assemblies, take out many of the resources that are stuck in the center to the assembly so that assemblies can deliver. And as we improve their capacity, they are going to deliver. Second, for the elections, I think and I think Kathleen said this earlier, the parties need to come in. I think that is a key factor for mobilizing the people.
When you say the parties, which parties are you referring to? How do they come in?
I didn't see that better.
There must be reforms to bring the political parties to supporting or to be part of that local government process. All over the world, it is done. We have this weird system in this country, and it's disappointing that all this while we have not been able to reform that. So that is another thing that we need to do. Those things are very important. And then the civic education part is key. These three will promote enthusiasm. And of course, one area which we haven't said much is about also women and urban areas. In fact, the participation, if you go to the rural areas, people participate far higher than the national average of 35 to 40%. But it's in the cities where the elites are, and no country can ever develop without the elite playing leading roles. And these are the people who don't participate at the local level elections and participate at local governance. And so these are some of the issues that I think we need to address. And the civic education, the education that the media, and I'm happy that yesterday the minister met the media, that they should help and facilitate these discussions going on. And I think it will help, especially in the cities where turnout is so low. There are so many places where assembly members turn out unopposed. Because they have not been competed against. For union committees, it's many places. We don't even get people to contest.
All right.
So that is something that is worrying, and I think that people always say that yes, all over the world, local government elections are lower than national. But in Ghana, the gap between the local level turnout and the national level is huge. It's not comparable to many countries. We're talking about 35% to 75%. That's doubling. And that is not what the case in the rest of the world. Yes, the rest of the world, it is lower at the national level, but at the local level compared to the national. But in our case, the gap is where we have huge problems. So these are some of the challenges, and these are some of the solutions. The political parties should play a role. The media should promote civic education on this. Then support assemblies with resources. If we don't support assemblies with resources, people will continue to have this kind of.
Let me bring in Dr. Osae. I'm asking you the same question, Dr. Osae, but would you also support that the political parties get involved to make sure that there's a lot of attention on district level elections?
Thank you very much. I think that I'd want to agree on the proposal for political parties involvement. But you see, the political parties involvement is constrained under law. So then that would then require a referendum of at the 55% to enable political parties to sponsor to local government elections. In any popular democratic participation, grassroots mobilization is very important, or people is very important. And the reason why at the national level we are able to attract participation or turnout is because the political parties get themselves involved in mobilizing to come and vote. So if we are able to amend the 5+3 and allow political parties to sponsor candidates to local government elections, it would they then sweeping to come to vote. I also think that the issue of resources, Dr. Awotwe mentioned. You see, the local governments have a lot of opportunities to mobilize resources. I can understand the percentage increase by way of the common fund, but I have always argued that we should be able to have a basis of costing the functions we have local government before we transfer funds to them. If we are not able to do that costing, we will keep on transferring responsibilities and functions to local government without an appropriate insurance resource. They will not be able to function. So I am for improved resource mobilization of local government so that they will be able to keep on their money, and it will engender confidence in the people so they can participate. The other area I think we can work on through participation is about encouraging associated business organizations, religious groups to also get own candidates, especially at this stage that it is supposed to be non-partisan. Once they sponsor candidates, it will increase the mobilization and then it will increase the turnout. Traditional authorities must also be involved because this is about local level development to local level and also enhance our MPs, because under the government, MPs are members of the assembly but without a voting right. However, once they are able to get themselves involved in the sense that educate and whipping people to come out to vote, and they make sure that we have good assessment methods, a good unit for the city members, they will also be saved because the pressure for them will reduce. The assembly member would have done some of the So our was also interested in getting citizens out to vote.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Well, I think we'll save the last word for Kathleen, because there is a target. The Information Ministry wants to up the voter turnout to about 50% next week. What are you going to tell people to make this happen?
Well, a program like this is always important, and the range of issues that this program has covered form the basis for the content that we speak to people about. That if in terms of the architecture of democracy, your local government is the first experience that you get, and that's how you experience the democracy in a meaningful way at the local level. Secondly, we talk about people going out to vote, but I also want to emphasize people putting themselves up to be elected, to work as for the assembly. It's not a full-time job. It's something that anybody can do. And I think Dr. Osae or mentioned the elite. Even people who own properties, in areas where people own $1 million properties, elsewhere they will be concerned about how their neighborhood is organized, how their community is run. Here, you own those properties, yet you are not. You don't even know your assembly, who's representing you at the assembly or the unit committee. And when your street light is broken, then you complain. You get on radio, you complain. It's fine, but the democracy is such that citizens have a role to play. If we don't actively play that role, it will get stuck. The system will get stuck the way we are seeing it now. People should responsible, upstanding members of society should put themselves up to be elected. Then they can hold the system to account in a more meaningful way. So that's another part of it. The other part is the public education, civic education aspect of it. Nobody is born a good citizen. Nobody is born knowing what citizenship is. Nobody is born knowing that as a citizen, these are my rights, these are my responsibilities, these are my opportunities. Nobody knows. They have to be taught. And the teaching has to be done consistently and actively, continuously, because there are always new citizens coming into the we're always growing, the population is growing, people are attaining the age for voting. There are always people being born. So the civic education has to be continuous. We can't reduce this conversation to funding for civic education, but it's important that it's mentioned, because in order for that work to happen, as a country, we need to agree that this is worth investing in. If we make this investment and people get to understand and people are constantly reminded and then they participate, things will ease up. If upstanding, tax-paying citizens participate, not just as voters but as putting themselves up for election, things will ease up. The other thing I want to say is about the partisan or non-partisan participation, and to state that I did not say
in a minute. Yeah.
I didn't say that it should be on partisan basis. We should elect. Whether it will be on partisan or non-partisan basis is not really a decision that lies with the NCC. As citizens need to decide through some kind of process. But for us, the important thing is that whether partisan or not, let's start by let's elect these people so that the accountability structure will be more immediate for the citizens. That's very important.
Kathleen, thank you very much for your time with us this morning. Kathleen Addy, of course, is the chair of the NCCE. We've also heard from Professor Nicholas Awoche, Director of the Institute of Local Government Studies, and Dr. Oduro Osae, who is a governance expert.